And Rajat Thai, I hope तपाईँ आउनुभयो जस्तो छ एकैछिन है Rajat, are you there?
Yes.
So shall I start?
Up to you.
Hey, thank you, Dai. So, like on radio. Rajat, हामी यी सप्ताहको फेसबुक पेजबाट लाइभ पनि जान लाग्छौँ जस्ट 1 मिनट अनि यहाँ सृष्टिले चाहिँ लाइभ गरेपछि अब स्टार्ट एकछिन पुग्नुपर्छ है Okay, thank you. So, namaste everyone. I'm Asmita from Meetup and welcome everyone in our Meetup 27 with the theme Blockchain for Business. And this Meetup 27 is especially organized with the theme Blockchain for Business as we're getting the queries from different business people. So this is organized by ISAPI, a Rumsen company, and a Blockchain Foundation Nepal, and is supported by Ecosystem Support, CSIT Association of Nepal, Prime IT Club, and Digital Notice. Talking about Isotia is a blockchain-based company in Nepal that specializes in developing blockchain-based products as well as consulting about blockchain technology through various blockchain sessions, technical series, as well as blockchain meetup like this one. Meanwhile, Blockchain Foundation Nepal is not for profit community that aims to create a blockchain ecosystem by supporting blockchain enthusiasts and blockchain innovations in Nepal. Likewise, the ecosystem support program, one of our supportive partner is the branch of the Ethereum Foundation, focused on supporting projects and entities within the greater Ethereum community in order to promote the success and growth of the overall ecosystem. And our next supporting partner, Digital Notice Media Lab, is a premier media agency offering a hub of touchless media services for blockchain technology-related platforms in India, and it is also our international supportive partner. And lastly, Prime IT Club is a student IT club dedicated to empowering IT knowledge in the students and bridging the gap between the college and the companies. So further ado, let's move to our meetup, blockchain for business. The main mission of meetup is to let know everyone about the challenges and opportunities of the blockchain for the business. And we have blockchain experts over here as our distinguished guest speaker. So in order to get the proper knowledge about the business with blockchain. We have get support from our industry expert, and Isate has streamed this blockchain meetup 27 around this premises. And we will also keep the floor open for a healthy discussion at the end of the event. And going to the process of our meetup, we have separated 20 minutes for each speaker. And if our audience have any queries, please write them down in the chat box below, and we shall discuss it at the end of the event. And also, we are going live through our Isate Facebook page, which will be also shared by our supportive partner. And we are doing so because we have only 100 attendees uh, in this Zoom, and we shall also be collecting the questions from the live section from our Facebook page. Too. So without further ado, let's start our meetup with our first speaker, Mr. Rajat Raj Bandari. Mr. Rajat Raj Bandari is the co-founder of Dexprite, a startup building decentralized logistic and smart contracts. He is also leading a project of the port workers to build Latin America's first blockchain-powered port community system. Prior to Dexprite, he was a research engineer at Texas A&M Transportation Institute, largest university-based transportation research institute in the world. And Rajat is quite a frequent blockchain speaker and evangelist. So Rajat, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation. On to you.
Thank you, Asmita. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning from US. I'm not going to turn my camera on. I'm not in a presentable state. So it's just early morning, 6 a.m. But thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for joining the call. I know this is after work. So thanks for hanging on. Let me share my screen. Asmita, can you see the screen?
Yeah, the screen.
All right. So this is meetup number 27, Isate, blockchain for Nepal. So I'll be talking about blockchain for business. So specifically building collaborative systems at scale. So this is related to enterprise businesses and how they're slowly looking at blockchain to build collaborative systems where they can collaborate with other companies. And because of various reasons that I'll dive into, it's very difficult for them to use public permissionless blockchain like Ethereum, Bitcoin. But there are hybrid models where the private network and federated networks are anchored on top of the public permissionless networks. So that's about me. I'm a co-founder of Dextrade. I'm also a working groups lead. That means I run committees at MOBI, which is a mobility open blockchain initiative of automotive companies. Also an advisor at Rumsan Group. So I also authored a book about blockchain a year ago. So this is what I tell people, like, how do I get my blockchain fix? Get it from three sources. One is my own company, Dextrade, which is a startup, and that's looking at blockchain to increase efficiency in ground logistics and financing. MOBI, which is a global consortium of auto manufacturers, that include Ford, BMW, Honda, GM, Toyota Industries, and many more. Mazda recently joined. Several insurance companies like USAA are also in mobility space to underwrite various mobility related risk. I'm also an advisor to Rahat and AgriClear over at Rumsan Group. So this is my book. You can find that book in Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I'm not sure it's available in Nepal, but you can get audiobook uh, over there. So this is all about how companies can adopt public blockchain, permission blockchain, but that's not the topic of today's presentation. So I'll try to finish this in 15 or so minutes, but I want to kind of step back and talk about this concept of ledger innovation. And if you go back several hundred years, the ledger as we know it has evolved over time, right? So the first ledger appeared in 7,000 or 700 BC in Egypt and around that area. That led to in 1300 AD the first bank appeared in Italy, and this was the first time the idea of debit and credit was used. And fast forward 1800, we started putting our ledger transactions in paper, and that allowed global trade. In around 1960s, the Lotus 123 came around, which created digital banking, which facilitated digital banking. And then around 2000, the Web 2 scaled, and we saw the use of databases to settle transactions, record transactions, either in cloud or in servers, and that facilitated the global e-commerce. After 2010, that's when the blockchain appeared, and now we're talking about Industry 4.0. So the point of this slide is, as you can see, as the ledger that stores transaction evolves, um, the global trade also changes. It creates new opportunities that we've never seen before. In 2000, in 1800 or around 1960, if you had thought we would be buying stuff in Amazon and being delivered to it and next day, we wouldn't have even thought about it. So looking into a future of about 10, 15, 20 years, we really don't know, what the extent of innovation that's going to come to us because of this ledger innovation. And the reason I talk about ledger innovation is, if you think of it very closely, blockchain is nothing but a ledger of transactions, right? But again, let's think about why the ledger innovation reduces cost of economic transaction is very simple. Every economic transaction between two entities is a transaction. There's a transaction cost, and that 35% of that transaction cost is trust. And what blockchain really does is reduces that cost of transaction. And at this point, we don't know if it's going to be 30% or 25% or 20% or something, but we do believe that it'll be less than 35%, especially in businesses. So that's why we're very excited about the prospect of blockchain being that ledger of business transactions. The reason for all of those ledgers, whether you put it in a tablet or a piece of paper or in a database, the goal of all ledger transaction, and the reason to trust those transaction is to prevent what we call double spending, right? So in this case, Alice just gave Bob a piece of text file that says, from I'm going to give my card to you. So this everything is digital now, right? So this is an hypothetical example. In reality, because this is an electronic file, Alice can give that file to 3 other people, and that's what's called double spending in accounting language. The goal of preventing the way we prevent the double spending is we use third party in the middle that sits and that is trusted by both Alice and Bob to say that that records that transaction from Alice to Bob, saying the car is now owned by Bob because Alice gave it to him. So this centralized third parties, we use them quite often, including banks, governments, notary publics. And obviously for that service, they charge fees, they charge commissions, and more they're becoming controller of those transactions, and they require identity, privacy, sort of mostly the identity part. So the idea of blockchain is there a way, is there an alternative to this model where we have to rely on these centralized entities like government agencies or private agencies, um, and replace this with a network, a concept of a network run on independent nodes, right? And so the idea is that the what Bitcoin showed us is, yes, it is possible, right? It is possible, but in the business sense, it's whether it's feasible or not is something we're still exploring. And the reason for this is that it is not trivial to basically replace the centuries old practices, institutions, and laws that were built around the idea of these centralized entities sitting in between the transactions and providing that trust infrastructure or trust layer. So I'm gonna so this is my definition of blockchain. Blockchain is a new kind of ledger, right? And the focus is on new kind of ledger that I talked about. Sorry, I keep going, right? That utilizes a set of technology and economic primitives, right? And to reduce, eliminate traditional mechanisms of trust, right? I don't, the focus is on new kind of ledger, right? I talked about ledger innovation, which is important. And we also see blockchain as nothing but a ledger, like I said before, which also, the reason it's a new kind of ledger is because the copies of those transactions are distributed over a large network of nodes. We have not seen that before, right? All the ledgers that we know now is centralized, is stored in one place. And also the emphasis on technology and economic primitives is blockchain uses cryptographic signatures, game theory incentives to make it more, to make the network more secure. And then third, underline there, reduce, eliminate traditional mechanisms of trust is everything is digital. There's no physical signatures. Contracts are executed in a code, and that's what we call smart contracts. But limitations is limitations by design, right? And there are probably many, but in the sense of a enterprise or business, one thing we should recognize is that blockchain does one thing very well, and that is recording transactions. You can create an immutable transaction, you can create tamper evident transactions, but that's the thing that blockchain does really, really well. Um, Obviously, transaction confirmations take time because the nodes have to agree on, at least the majority of the nodes have to agree on the transactions so that they can be added to the block. The other thing is garbage in, garbage stays, right? You put garbage in the blockchain, the garbage stays. There's no way to remove it in public permissionless blockchain, and even in other blockchain without without any repercussions, right? That's the idea of blockchain, is to be immutable all the time. Transactions are pseudo-anonymous and mostly in Bitcoin, Ethereum type blockchain. It's not completely anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous. There's you can do correlations to figure out who the transaction belongs to, but it's a hard problem to solve. But nonetheless, it's not completely anonymous. So how do you use blockchain for in business, in not only business but any other use cases? If you look at the fundamentals of blockchain's use, is five things. You can prove an ownership of a digital asset, right? So proof of ownership. Proof of existence is that you can prove that a digital asset exists by looking at whether that transaction has been recorded in blockchain or not. Proof of transfer, you can prove that a digital asset was transferred from one entity to another entity, or one person to another person. As a simple example is, you can go to Bitcoin or Ethereum Explorer and look at which public key send Bitcoin to which public key, right? Proof of decisions. So in business, this is very important point. to prove that a digital asset was transferred to another entity. So because they're recorded in an immutable ledger or tamper evident ledger, you can look at the transaction and see, yes, this person or this public key sent this to made this decision to send, this asset to another asset. And you can keep extending this. Like proof of location is something I'm working on, which is to prove an entity was present at a location, right? So this is what we call a trusted trip, and I'm building specification. I already built a specification for this, is to verify how do you prove that you were at a shopping mall, right? How do you prove that you took a train without disclosing the details of your trip? So that's a privacy preservation of your geographic location. So in the end, you use any of these five components in your business application. Um, so the smart contracts is an interesting concept that most of you probably know is, and the idea is very simple. Again, it's the executing contract logic on blockchain, right? Like any other contract, you have the input conditions, you have if the condition is true, do something. So there's an action there, and then the output is some form of action, which could be either a payment or it could be recording some activity into the ledger. So essentially, it stores contract logic. Logic is transparent to all the parties involved in that transaction. Typically have equal access. So that's the beauty of this smart contract is both parties have equal access to that information. So in business, this is done through paper contracts, right? We do this all the time, and the idea is to now doing it in blockchain. So here's a simple code about a logistics process where a shipper hires a trucking company like a carrier B, and carrier B picks up a load from a warehouse C. Carrier B delivers to the consignee D. So all of this information is stored executed through a smart contract. Now, traditionally, this is done in paper through the paper contracts, and because if you do this in a smart contract, you can automatically issue payment to the carrier for moving your shipment. That can be automated, and then you can expose this to insurance banks, auditors, lawyers, if there's any kind of fraud, if you need to turn this into an asset, and use it as a collateral to borrow funds from decentralized finance liquidity pools, or even traditional banks and insurance, right? So for business, it's really difficult to use public blockchain by itself. Main reason is they are not allowed to disclose their trade secrets, and typically those trade secrets include the pricing and the volume of transactions that they do with other companies, and that would be the violation of antitrust laws that most companies have. So what they've turned into is what we call federated blockchain or consortium blockchain. And Mobi, where I lead these communities or working groups, um, is building a federated blockchain for mobility applications. And there are several others. MediLedger is for pharmaceutical companies. BankChain is for banks. So a lot of big businesses are now looking into what they call federated blockchain, but there are some hybrid models also coming around, which uses public blockchain as a final trust anchor. So the federated blockchain or consortium blockchain allows the disclosure of selected trade practice data, right? So the businesses can decide what to disclose and what not to disclose in those transactions. So it gives them a lot of flexibility around that and stay compliant with the laws of different jurisdictions. And it allows horizontal collaboration at scale. It's very difficult for large companies to collaborate with other large companies, not only because they're competing, but also because it creates a potential for monopolistic behavior. and that is not seen in a nice way by many government jurisdictions. So they've turned into federated blockchain to tell the government that, hey, we're collaborating on blockchain, and the blockchain is a federated network of nodes, and all the participants in the nodes can see see to some extent the transactions. So if you need to verify that we're not engaged in any kind of monopolistic behavior, monopolistic practices, you can come and do the auditing of the transactions, right? So it and you can the large enterprises have complex access management policies. Right? Big companies have hierarchies from managers to senior supervisors to senior managers to VPs, and they have very stringent access management policies and things that their staff can do. So consortium and federated blockchain allows them to maintain that hierarchy, maintain that access management policies. And most important part is that reduces the cost of what we call a one-off integration. So if there are four companies that wants to collaborate, then you have to do 4 times 3, like 12 connections traditionally. So now with the federated blockchain, you just need 4 connections. So that reduces the cost of connection by n-1 scale, right, which is very, very important for large companies because it takes them, it requires them millions of dollars to do these one-off integrations. So I talked about the implementation model. You have the legacy systems on top that the big companies have. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars over the years to build these IT systems. So the federated nodes, the federated blockchain nodes can be done in Hyperledger, Ethereum, or any other infrastructure. And so the hybrid model is something that says, and I'm still going to use the public permission infrastructure like Ethereum mainnet or Bitcoin layer 2, but it only does like ZK rollups, right? Your transactions are rolled up, they're aggregated and rolled up in Merkle roots. So when somebody goes into this permission blockchain, the transactions, they really don't see the actual information about the transactions that these companies had. So they're basically using this public permission infrastructure as a security layer. So there's a couple of projects that I'm working on with Mobi and my own company as well. So one example is using federated blockchain as a trust anchor, where original equipment manufacturers, so in this case, like Honda, BMW, Ford, the big companies, are collaborating with their suppliers, dealers, and even up to the vehicle owners. And they're using the federated blockchain to store and different identities, right? Identity of the persons, identity of vehicles, cars, even car parts, and all they're doing is verifying. They're using the same ledger to verify the identities. All the business activities happen on top within themselves. All they're doing is verifying identities using what we call verifiable credentials, and it was standardized by W3C. So it can be that verifiable credentials work as allows these companies to only selectively do what we call a selective disclosure of that information within the parties engaged in this particular business transaction. This is another project we're doing with, it's called a supply chain traceability of electric vehicle batteries and modules. This is a very complex use case in which the auto manufacturers and the suppliers of batteries and suppliers of different components are asked to track and trace the individual components in these EV batteries, all the way from mineral mining to first use in EV batteries and recycling and repurposing of those batteries to the end of life, where the battery is basically sent to a junkyard. So there are some regulations coming in, especially in Europe, which requires the battery manufacturers to be able to provide that traceability from birth to death type of thing. And and the project that we're working on is to figure out how to do that, and if using federated blockchain reduces the cost of doing that. So this is an ongoing project. Um, it's complex because most of the data comes from their legacy systems, and we're still trying to figure out. We've already built the federated network. Now the second phase is to design the governance system of that federated network, as to how the access rights are given for different entities to be part of that network. And so essentially, the end result is anybody can. So all the EV batteries will have a serial number or a unique, globally unique identifiable number, and you can type in that, and you can see where the materials came from and who produced the batteries and who placed the batteries in which vehicle and all that. And that is coming from EU law that's going to be passed in next couple of months, which will be a game changer in terms of being able to create different business use cases for EV batteries, even after it's been used in EV and then subsequently used for other purposes. The This is the project. This is the project that we're doing with my company. A very similar concept. So typically, a shipment, like a big truck carrying a shipment, goes through different stakeholders, like shippers, third-party logistics carriers, consignees, and they have their own legacy systems. So we track those shipments and that digital twin of those activities through the federated blockchain. And so in this case, it's slightly different. We're not only tracking the identity, we're also including their transactions, the different attributes of those transactions on the first onto the private Ethereum network and anchored to the Ethereum through Polygon. But some of the smart contracts will be eventually added to the Ethereum network through Polygon for settlements and settlements of those invoices. So there's lots of projects like this, which is looking into, whether the federated blockchain can reduce the cost of trust that we talked about. Can it go down from 35% to something smaller? And if that happens, then you can imagine there's trillions of transactions happening all around the world in these complex supply chain and logistics and banking and insurance and all that. So you can imagine the cost reduction from that aspect. There are some challenges for scaling. The horizontal collaboration between companies is difficult. It's big companies have different regulations. They have to follow the different laws of the land. So it's always difficult for horizontal collaboration between companies. Especially they cannot reveal the trade secrets, especially volume and price. They already have millions of dollars of IT investments that cannot be disregarded. So any new system, blockchain or whatever, needs to be integrated with their IT already existing legacy systems, which adds to the cost. It's any the projects that I talked about, you can think of like most enterprise data are still created in silos. So you still have to some extent, trust those data that's coming from their enterprise systems, which makes it very philosophically difficult to say this is, these are decentralized systems, right? If you look at smart contracts and NFTs, you cannot present them in the court as a legal evidence, right? So if you have done a contract with another company and all of that is in smart contract, and if something goes wrong, you cannot take the smart contract transaction to the court and say this is a legal evidence. The court basically says, no, we do not recognize that. We don't know what that is, right? So it still has to be in paper. And for big companies, it's important because they're always doing the risk averse, and they're doing risk mitigation. So if the smart contracts are and blockchain components are cannot be presented as legal evidence, then the chances of scaling is very small. Now there are several states and countries which have started to recognize smart contracts as legal evidence. Um, Even United Nations is barely looking at how to whether to accept the smart contracts and those transactions as legal evidence or not. So it's going to take several years before all these things come into place, and we'll see a massive scaling of blockchain in an enterprise. So that's it for me today. You can find me in different ways, and ping me if you have questions. Back to you, Ashmita.
Thank you so much, Rajatji, and thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, as well as sharing the ideas and blockchain in business in a simpler ways. And now it's time for our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Suvarna Sakya. Mr. Sakya has a strong engineering professional with a Doctor of Philosophy, focus in computer engineering. He has served as an executive director at National Information Technology Center, Government of Nepal. He also has a keen interest in research and development of IT, e-government system, information security for e-government system, multimedia system, along with the computer system, simulation and modeling. So without taking further time, I just want to hand over to Suvarnaji. So Suvarnaji, you can take over now. Yes, sir, your screen is visible, but you are on mute. So, sir, can you please unmute?
Okay.
Sorry, I just mistakenly mute you again.
No,
So,
no,
sir,
now it's okay, I think. Yeah.
okay,
Are you
yeah,
hearing me? Hearing my
thank you.
voice? Yeah,
Yeah,
audible?
loud and clear.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you very
loud
much
and clear.
for inviting me, Asmita ji, for special thanks to you and the organizer, Blockchain Foundation Nepal, yeah, and is Satya, yeah, your organization, and Rumshan also organization, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Asmita?
Rumsen is a company and
Yeah.
Isote is one of his
Okay.
brands.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for all the organization so participating in this talk program and all the participants, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just talking about the blockchain application. This is the short, and I got the information from the Asmita. So, so this is my short CV, small bio. I'm working now as a IT director as IT Innovation Center. So blockchains, one of the decentralized distributed database that is used to maintain a continuous growing list of records called blocks. Maybe already informed by the Dr. Rajat Ji also, Rajat Rajbandari also, and each block contains a timestamp and link to a previous block. Then after that, blockchain is the distributed secure log file to share ledger with technology to trust transaction without a center authority. Then the blockchain's combination of three leading technologies, cryptographic keys, peer-to-peer network containing a shared ledger, a means of computing to store the transaction and record of the network. So that means blockchain is nowadays very useful. This is the distributed secure log files. Blockchain is the distributed secure log file or shared ledger with technology trust transaction without the central authority. And this is the process of the blockchain. The first is we have the transaction is requested. Then after that, transaction is broadcasted to network. And then after a third step is network is validating the transaction using cryptography. Then after that, transaction represented online as a block. Then block is added to the existing blockchain. Then after that, step 6 is transaction is complete. By using the benefit in the business in our daily lives, like e-commerce in others applications, and it is keeping the secure record in our system, efficient value transfer, and smart contract. So 4 key concept of blockchain is I already mentioned distributed share ledger, consensus. Then after cryptography in the cybersecurity, the blockchain is most used for the base security, and smart contract is another part. And by using the benefit, blockchains used in the business are being used today to help reinvent how transactions are managed. They can take time and cost out almost any process, enabling near real-time operations. Then after that, they delivered a high degree of accuracy, control with much less risk than the alternatives. So these are the few applications we can using the blockchains. So not only the business sector, the blockchains application used in different applications like healthcare also, supply chains, Internet of Things, IT cloud storage, sharing economy, is legal, trade, finance, banking, insure, crowdfunding, funding, and then after the cryptocurrencies. That's why we have to work. So I am from the academic field. That's why the business organization must be work in this field, and they can develop some applications by using the blockchain technology to effective implementation of trade finance with secure legal system, real estate, healthcare, and supply chains. You can work in this area is the most important nowadays for the effective implementation of the blockchain technology in business sector as well as the some another health sector also. So next is blockchains is used in, and this is the benefit of the blockchains we are used for the our daily lives. When we are using the blockchain, that means the system is trust, decentralized sector, we can improve the security and privacy, we can reduce the cost, then after that speed also, visibility and traceability is the most important, immutability, then after individual control, we can control individual data, then after tokenization and innovation also. These are the few things of the blockchains. So another is the blockchains we can use in supply chains management as well as the cyber security. I already mentioned in security, this the blockchain is the one of the very important, we can say as a technology to make it very secure, and everything is we can make it secure in e-commerce. In the government sector, e-governance system, we can use the blockchains to effective implementation as well as the secure the e-governance system like government to business, government to citizen, and government to government system by using the blockchains. And then after that, the another new applications, most of the e-voting system, we can use blockchains for secure and effective implementation of voting system. Then after that, by using the blockchain system, the advantage is removing the human involvement in the verification, then cost reduction by eliminating third party, and centralized, decentralized, I already mentioned, and transparency technology, efficiency and speed. These are the few things. So we must use in our business areas, so we can make the business effective and efficient way by using the blockchains. This is only my introduction presentation today. So I also work in the blockchain technology. My research paper also there. Some research papers I already published in the blockchain. So you can search in the Google. There are.
Sir, I just want to interrupt you for a while.
Okay,
We
okay.
can't see your slide being changed. So can you please?
Not. Oh, why you are not saying then? Sorry.
I was just
Sorry.
waiting. Okay,
Oh,
no
no,
worries.
not saying. Okay, sorry. So I can do again then. Okay, this is you already
Yeah.
see my slides. Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, this is the
You can
blockchain.
just
Okay.
skip the before part and you
Okay,
can just
okay,
continue
okay,
from
okay.
there.
So blockchains, that means blockchains is the combination of three leading technologies: cryptographic keys, peer-to-peer network containing the share ledger, then after that means of computing to store the transaction record of the network. Then blockchain is the distributed, secure log file. Blockchain is the distributed secure log file or share ledger with technology to trust the transaction without the central authority. Then after that blockchain process, we can follow the 6 steps. First step, we have to transaction is request, sending the money. Then after that, second, then after that, transaction is broadcast to the network, and the network is validating the transaction using cryptography. Cryptography, we are using some cryptography algorithms, RSA, hash algorithm. There are so many algorithms are there, cryptographic algorithms. Then after that, the fourth is transaction represented online as a block. Then after that, fifth one is the block is added to the existing blockchains. Then the sixth one is the transaction is complete. This is the blockchains process. When you are implementing blockchains, you have to follow the blockchain process. Next is the benefit. The benefit by using blockchain in our business, in our order application, that means we have keeping the secure records, efficient value transfer, then after that, smart contract. These are the four key concepts of blockchains is, just I mentioned it, distributed share ledger, then after that consensus, then cryptography is the another very much important. Nowadays, the blockchain is used in cyber security for the effective implementation of security, then after that, smart contract. The benefit of the blockchains in business is nowadays is used today to help reinvent how transactions are managed. Then after that, they can take time and cost out the almost any process, enabling near real-time operations. And they deliver the high degree of accuracy and control with much less risk than many alternatives. These are the few applications I just mentioned already. Slides not visible at that time. So the business sector, business vendor or software development company who are working in the blockchains, they are focused in this area nowadays. They have to develop the application in this area, in the real estate, in healthcare, supply chains, IT cloud storage, sharing economics, IoT, insurance, cloud funding, banking sector, and cryptocurrencies, trade finance. These are the few applications the business sector who are working in the business sector and who is working in the software companies, they can develop applications by using blockchains technologies. That means we can make it very secure and efficient way. Blockchains is very useful nowadays for the security purpose. This is a distributed system I already mentioned. Then after that, blockchains, when we are using blockchain, that means it's a trust centralized structure we have to develop. Then after that, we have to improve the security and privacy. Next is we can reduce the cost, and speed is also another important way, and visibility and traceability, immutability, then individual control of the data, tokenization, and innovation. These are the few blockchains example. So we can use in our daily lives. Thank you. And another, I can say some advantage I already mentioned it. Yeah. By using the blockchains, that means we have to make it verification is the most important. The future technology we are using in artificial intelligence, also machine learning also, and other daily lives application in e-commerce, e-business, and cloud governance sector. Also in cloud security, we have to use the blockchains technologies. These are the few introduction parts just I mentioned today. So if I already mentioned some papers also there, I'm working the blockchains technology with some Indian professors, Indian universities, and then my paper also published there. So thank you very much. That's all. Yeah. Asmita, Manandar, you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
So
much for
I'm
your
making very short
presentation.
and sweet presentation only today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
remaining time is especially for the Q&A session. So thank you so much, Suvarna sir, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Likewise, we do have queries, and the first queries is the blockchain is being advanced and all the technology is being advanced, but one of the audience is asking the question that how does decentralized logistics system will help the e-commerce companies in terms of money and speed of delivery. Rajat ji or Suvarna sir, anyone can
Maybe
please
this is the
answer.
application oriented, I think. Yeah, Raj Bandari can answer, I think.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, so in logistics, it's especially in our case, we're using it for a very specific purpose, which is the invoice financing. A lot of trucking companies are small business owners. They have one or two trucks, and they need financing of their liquidity for cash flow. And what we do here is we take their invoices and finance them. And so there's a traditional way of financing those invoices so that they're always there. They have a cash flow to do, buy fuels and pay drivers and all that. So there's a traditional way of doing it, which is they sell their invoices to a bank, for an interest fee of about 4, 5, 6% for 30-day invoice. So what we're looking to do is to basically turn that invoice into, because all the invoices are done on smart contracts, we turn that invoice into an NFT, and then we collateralize that NFT to borrow funds from a decentralized finance pool. And the idea is that the traditional method of doing that is paper intensive, so the cost is high. And if we do it in a smart contract and borrow funds from liquidity pools, then obviously the process is automated. There are no papers involved. And so that allows us to bring the cost down for borrowing that transaction. So eventually that gets passed on to the drivers. So instead of paying like 5%, 6% interest rate or fees, we can do that for less than 2%. So that's a use case that we're looking into. And it's not so much as to whether it's decentralized or not. It's basically using the DeFi pools, which are, quote unquote decentralized, right? So we're just leveraging that.
Okay, thank you so much for answer. Hopefully, I think the question is answered. And we do have a next question that a lot of the blockchain enthusiasts just want to learn about the blockchain Nepal. And the question is that they just want to grow the skills in the blockchain business. So how can do they do the same? How can they develop the skills? So is there any answer from any, you can answer any of our
I can
speakers.
answer from academic. So first of all, if you want to implement the blockchain technology, that means you need to study, you need to do some training, yeah, or maybe you can learn from the academic institution as well as some institution. Then after that, you can implement your traditional business system into secure and very effective, efficient way. That's why the blockchains, after that, you can implement it, because you must know the blockchains technology algorithms and how we can implement in our daily lives, yeah, in daily application things. So we are using the online systems nowadays. That's why we have to first, we must know the blockchains, how we can use in our business activities. This is the most important. Thank you from my side.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we do have, yeah, you can add on.
Maybe Dr. Rajbandari can
Rajat,
add something. Rajat, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a simple answer. Just join the blockchain for Nepal meetups. You will learn a lot.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. Also, we have next question, I think is especially for Rajatji. So how the perspective or the views is changed for your customer when we are using the blockchain technology? I think he just want to ask that, what's the difference for using the blockchain and non-blockchain in the business?
Well, for large enterprises, it's still an early stage, right? So this is still in mostly an R&D stage. There's a belief that, and everything starts with a belief, right? So there's a belief that it will reduce the transaction cost and potentially create new business models that we've not seen before, right? So they're very optimistic, and that's why they invest money and time on it. But in terms of the results itself, they're not there yet.
So thank you for your answer. Though we are on the business side, I also have got another question. It's just related to the NFT. So how does recent NFT trends affects world economic? Can you please answer that?
Well, the NFTs, the NFT is essentially a standard. It's called ERC 721 standard, that was created, I think, 3 years ago or 4 years ago. It's an evolution of ERC 20 standard. So basically, the NFT, the strength of NFTs, you are declaring an asset, your digital asset on blockchain. and then you are transferring that asset to some other person or some other entity and recording that transmission on blockchain, right? That's all NFT is. Now, what is that asset? It can be anything. It can be art piece, it can be music rights, it can be your home, it can be anything. And we use invoices as NFTs.
In video
Um,
also, yeah.
the reason NFTs become so much attention is because of the art NFTs. But that's just one small use case of an NFT. Um, so it has gotten a lot of attention. It has got a lot of good press and bad press. But don't make a mistake of thinking that NFT is just art NFTs. That's not the case. So NFTs represent an asset. So for the enterprise, the NFTs are can represent invoices. It can represent different rights to do access something. And so, in terms of NFTs, art NFTs, it's I don't think it's making a big impact. It has potential to show some new innovations as to how the digital assets can be transferred and tracked and traced and recorded. Has it made a big impact on businesses? No, not really.
So I think Suvarnaji also want to add on to that.
No, I already sent the message. Yeah, NFT is the digital assets that represent real world objects like art, music, in-game items, and video. Already mentioned it. Yeah. So these are the three things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much, answer. And I just want to add on that I think there are lots of people who just want to be a blockchain developer. So for that, we also have started our fellowship session. So we have come up to the third session of the fellowship, and we are soon going to start next fellowship food after the completion of this current fellowship. So I think from there also you can learn more to be a blockchain developer. And I think we haven't get any more. Yeah, we do have one question. Most public blockchains are banned in Nepal. So how can it be learned in Nepal?
So this is the policy related issue. Yeah. Policy must be implemented in Nepal. Yeah. Policy related issue. That's why we have to ban in the Nepal, and maybe Nepal Rashtra Bank or government should initiate for make it effective implementation of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think since Bitcoin is just illegal in
Yeah,
Nepal,
yeah,
so
same thing.
most of
Yeah.
the people have the same opinion of that blockchain and Bitcoin are the same thing. And the for the same, we just we are here. Isat is here for the awareness program, and also as well as we have communicated with the NRB and collaborated. Yeah, provide them guidance about the CBDC sessions too, and hopefully with all our efforts, we'll be able to create a blockchain environment in Nepal too.
Yes, yes.
And I think we are actually on the end of the meetup. So for further inquiries, you can always visit to our social media websites, and I'll be also sharing the just LinkedIn profile of our speakers. So you can also ask the question over there too. And thank you so much for all your questionnaires. And like I've already said, we are just at the end of our meetup. And before that, I just want to share my Twitter and LinkedIn account. So if you have any further inquiries, you can always reach out to me there. I'm just sharing it to the chat screen. Um, just a few seconds. Yeah, I've already mentioned it in the chat screen. You can message me over there. And with this, I think you all enjoyed this session as we did before organizing this meetup. And our team would like to specially thank our distinguished guest speaker, Rajat ji and Suvarna ji, for their valuable time in our meetup. And once again, thank you so much. And not only to our speakers, we are also equally thankful to all our attendees for being here with us in this event and creating a blockchain ecosystem. Also, hope to see you all in our next event too. And for that, please stay connected with us through our social media platforms, which are mentioned in the chat box. I think it's already mentioned by the Rumsen group. And also for attending the next event, do like and follow the Isate Facebook page and LinkedIn page if you haven't. And also we create our events on the meetup.com platform too. And these are the three places where we continuously create and post the details of our event, and as well as other activities such as fellowship and technical sessions happening on the Isate. And also, uh, meanwhile, you can also suggest about the topics which you want to hear in our coming meetup. And with this, I just want to wrap up today's meetup. Till then, everyone have a great time. Stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. See you soon
Thank
in the
you.
next meetup.
Okay, thank you
So
very much.
thank you, both of us speaker.
Thank you,
Once again, thank you.
Asmita. Thank